Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pardot Consultant Bootcamp Day 7. I, Isha Garg, and here,
Hello, everyone.
Payal Langani. We both, on behalf of Pardot New Delhi and Pardot Ajmer Group, welcome you all to Pardot Consultant Bootcamp Day 7. Yes, it's the day 7th of our bootcamp. We are so excited to see you all there. Thanks again for joining. Hey, Jennifer. Welcome.
Hey.
We welcome you here. And we are
Thank
so excited. Whatever you have in your bucket to share with us. Jennifer, the stage is all yours. Rock
thank
on.
you, Issa. Thank you. Hey, everybody. Welcome to day 7. First of all, a quick congrats to all of you. You've made it 7 days in. You've dedicated an entire week to learning, and all of you right now need to be patting yourselves on the back. Congratulations to all of you. The best of luck. And thank you for joining me today for day 7. So, as Isha said, my name is Jennifer Schneider. I'm a head solutions architect, Salesforce marketing champion, and Trailblazer at heart. Feel free to connect with me on both LinkedIn and Twitter, as well as check out the Pardot Life's podcast, where you can learn more about Salesforce Pardot, a lot about connected campaigns and strategy. It'll be a great resource for you as well. You guys will have this deck, so you'll have these links as well to connect with me if we're not connected already. So, what are we going to do today? How are we going to spend our Saturday morning, evening, or afternoon? So, our agenda is we've done our intro already. We're going to cover really briefly connected campaigns and campaign influence. We're going to talk about why those pieces are so important for reporting. Then we're going to breeze through some Pardot reporting. You've seen a lot of that this week through these fantastic presenters, but we're going to refresh again today on some of the key points that are important for you to understand and learn. Then we're going to dive into engagement history, B2B reporting, and Pardot Einstein, those shiny squirrels of Salesforce, the things that everyone wants to touch and play with. We're going to dive right into those. And then after that, we're going to have our main Q&A. Now, our presentation flow is going to be a little bit different. So I want to familiarize yourself with how today's going to go. You're going to see on my slides consultant cert or consultant job alert. Now, while everything that I present today is not going to necessarily be on your consultant cert, there's a lot of key points that are going to help you as a consultant. And so I try to call that out to understand that as you get into this job, or maybe you're already consulting, there's some key factors that'll be really important for you to learn and continue to grow. Our learning flow, I'm going to start off with explaining some of the tactical details, right? Where things are available, what are the prerequisites. And then I'm also going to give you some resource links. So throughout this entire presentation, you will have little areas where you can click in directly to Salesforce help docs for further information. I won't be reading everything off every slide. Phew, nobody likes that. But what you'll be able to do later is utilize these slides for reference, as well as those links directly to further definitions. After that, we're going to do some demo time. So I'm going to bring you into my dev org, and we are going to be able to work together. At the end, we will have some remaining questions at the end. All right. So, what can you expect to see in this exam? So, this is reporting metrics and analytics. It makes up about 11% of the exam, which equates to about 8 questions. When you look at the recommendations for the exam, they tell you to recommend to understand the technical setup requirements for reporting and analytics. You're going to identify your reporting methods and give a particular scenario. So, we're going to talk about some of the questions that you might get as a consultant, and you need to understand which tool am I going to use? Where do I go to find this information? Is it going to be in B2B? Is it going to be in Engagement Studio? Where do I go? So, think about that as we learn about all these reporting items today. The last is a little trickle of Pardot Einstein. Now, don't worry, a lot of this is not technical. It's not going to get in depth into B2B. It's not going to get in depth into Pardot Einstein. It's just going to ask a few questions, and we'll cover some of that stuff today. So let's talk a little bit about connected campaigns. Now, this is my quote. I've lived and died. Those of you that are familiar with my podcast, you know how much I love the campaign object. But connected campaigns, think of them as the structure of your company's initiatives. And think of that campaign object as the nucleus of your company. That campaign object has the power to connect to everything, different leads, contacts, accounts, because of the campaign member object. It's very important. And when you utilize it to its fullest ability, you will do extremely well. And the initiatives, as far as connected campaigns, think of that as, what are the things that your company reports on? What are the things that you do? You want to measure your initiatives, right? So, a couple things about connected campaigns. It is generally available in all Pardot.orgs. And the importance of the strategy behind creating that structure, nesting that campaign hierarchy in Salesforce, using a consistent naming convention or taxonomy, using custom fields as well to be able to report across hierarchical. All of these things are keys to reporting. Connected campaigns is your key to successful reporting. This isn't set up. It's really just a one-to-one kind of mishmash of a whole bunch of things that you did. We want to answer questions like, how did our webinars perform in Q1? What about our virtual events in 2020 versus our live events in 2019? How did they compare? We want to make sure that we have buckets for those things. Now, connected campaigns is also a prerequisite to engagement history, B2BMA, and Pardot Lightning. And just so you know, any new Pardot.org, it is a requirement. It just comes with it. You need to utilize the connected campaigns feature. If you haven't done that yet, it'll definitely ease you into Pardot Lightning, which everyone should be using for a variety of reasons. Let's talk a little bit about campaign influence. So while campaign influence is not on the consultant search specifically, it's definitely something for your consultant career to understand. I've got where it's available. It is available in Salesforce Classic, but however, I definitely recommend that you be utilizing Lightning. It is a prerequisite to B2BMA. That is something that so many people have probably tripped up on. They've tried to set up B2BMA, and all of a sudden they don't understand why their multi-touch attribution out of the box report isn't working. Most of the time, it's because they haven't enabled their campaign influence 2.0. So definitely take note of this. This needs to happen prior to that. This is going to enable that first touch, last touch, and even touch attribution. So let's talk a little bit about campaign influence and some of the things that go into it. Excuse me. The first is you're going to need admin access to edit. So when you create your campaign influence, don't forget to enable it, but also create a report type. This report type is going to allow you to pull the data coming from campaign influence in your reporting inside of Salesforce. Also, don't forget to add your related list to your campaign and opportunity objects. This is so important. A lot of people will enable the influence and they don't take the following next two steps to actually utilize the feature. Now, we won't get into today, but don't forget to review your auto association settings. Google it, look at resources, look at different items that are out there, blogs. Auto association settings are a little tricky, but super important to your attribution. Again, this is a prerequisite to engagement history as well, and it's going to assist you with your Pardot Lightning. All right, let's dive into some reporting. As you can see, you see your first resource link here. You're going to see those along the way. Any of these resources are directly linked to Salesforce help documents that deep dive into the nitty-gritty details. Feel free to utilize those as you use this study guide. So let's talk a little bit about lifecycle reporting. We're going to polish through these pretty quickly so we have more time at the end for engagement history. Okay. Pardot lifecycle reporting considerations. I'm not going to go through all of the things that are on my slide, but I am going to point out some things that are super important. It is up to you as a consultant to understand how these reports pull their metrics. They may be the same or different than what you do today in Salesforce. And as a consultant, it's our job to be able to explain what they mean, how they're pulled, and it's also our job to make that connection, right? We are the bridge between what our company understands a particular definition is and what the tool is stating. So, some of the things to remember is that when you first turn on Pardot, you start getting it going, you might see some things that aren't exactly the same as Salesforce. And notice that their creation and assignment dates are going to determine a prospect's lifestyle stage. They're based on Pardot dates, not CRM dates. Okay. So when we start seeing some association between opportunities and things like that, we may have some discrepancies in the beginning. Just note that, understand that, so that you can explain that to your client or to your org. Another thing is contact roles. You've heard all of us scream about contact roles for a long time now. They are super important, and it is impossible to have any attribution without them. So make sure that if you're not using contact roles today in your Salesforce, in your sales team, that you look at the different solutions. There's some great apps out there by Conte. There is also a way to do this with Process Builder and Flow. There are a lot of different options to make contact roles mandatory. So definitely take a look out there at resources and make sure that that is on your radar. And lastly, kind of going back to what we said before, MQL and SQL definitions in this lifecycle report are specific to what Salesforce defines in MQL. It's not going to be specific to your particular org. You may have a completely different process in what defines an MQL, SQL, SAL. So know what the Pardot definition is and be able to explain that to your client. So here is just a really quick screen of these definitions. We're not going to go through them today. This is here for you. This is here for you to understand. This is so important, these fundamental pieces. You will see why these come up later in engagement history and B2BMA. You'll understand why it's so important to understand these definitions. So take time specifically to understand these metrics and be able to explain them and understand where they come from. All right. We also have our velocity chart. That is something that everyone is used to seeing. It is one of the bigger charts that Pardot provides as a standalone. And again, your job is to be able to explain these key metrics to your company and understand where the gaps are. So let's take a look inside a demo org. And I believe I just got logged out. So give me a second and I will get in there. Nothing like a live demo, right? All right. Perfect. We'll click that link one more time. All right, so here is our life cycle report. Notice you're going to have your net new prospects, opportunities, won opportunities. We're seeing our definitions here like MQL and SQL. Again, remember, they're not going to be tailored to maybe how you equate them in Salesforce today. It's up to you to understand those definitions. Last thing to point out, make sure that you utilize your date range. You can utilize custom or select any. This is a really great place to start, and this is provided for you. Okay, let's take a look next now at list email and email template reporting. You're going to see these full resources, again, resources to Salesforce help docs that talk about all of the different metrics and the things that you may need to understand. We're going to go through just a few that I feel are super important today. The one thing that is really important for you to understand is how these tables work. You're going to have tables inside of Pardot, and you're going to be able to manipulate them in some way. And these are great places for a quick look to look at an aggregate group of emails. How do they work? What can they do? You can add and remove columns. You can filter by column specific criteria. Not a lot of criteria, probably not as much criteria as you would like, but there is some customization there. You can sort them and you can rearrange them. You also have the ability to export this data into a spreadsheet. This resource here will talk about all the functionality of these statistical tables within Pardot. I advise you to become familiar with them. Now we have a slew of metrics, right? Tons of definitions to try to memorize for list emails and templates. I've got the resources links below. I advise clicking those links, making some flashcards, and becoming familiar. But the top ones that I find a lot of my clients getting confused around are the ones that we're looking at the screen today. The difference between bounces, soft bounces, and hard bounces. It's a constant question from clients, and it will be a question you will need to answer. What is the difference between a soft bounce and a hard bounce? Same with opt outs. Opt outs, spam complaints. What's the difference? How does it work? These key terms seem to be the ones that clients are most concerned about, and you'll find yourself troubleshooting and trying to explain them on a daily basis. So do yourself a favor, understand those metrics, understand this vocabulary, create some flashcards, and grab a buddy and have some fun. All right, here's another little tidbit. So I believe it was day 4. Morgan went through some wonderful email statistics. We're going to take a look at that today as well. And on the email report, there's a small piece that shows you how many people have skimmed, read, glanced, or forwarded your email. These metrics are super important. And I think one of the most unutilized features that Pardot has. So remember to know what these definitions mean. Again, as a consultant, you are the go-to person. Your client is going to say, "Hey, I saw someone take this email and there's, 15% skimmed it. What does skimmed mean?" It's going to be up to you to understand and be able to say, "Well, that just means the email was open between 2 to 8 seconds." These are important terms for you to understand. Definitely take a look and understand how to explain those to your client. So let's do some demo time. So the first thing I'm going to do is walk through an email report once more, and then we will look at some further reporting. So pop right in here. So here we have our email, and we have our content syndication, product A and B. I want to take a look at the report. So in the upper right-hand corner of your screen in Pardot Lightning, we're going to click View Report. As you can see, we have all of our statistics. Anything in blue means you can drill down. Remember that tip. Anything in blue means you can drill into it. You can click on it. We have our clickable rate report. This is going to allow you to understand what links are performing better. I like to add not only a call to action button, but a couple of links within my text and try to understand if my audience is engaging more with my text links versus my call to actions, or maybe even images. Here we have interaction and that engagement. We just looked at that slide. So as your clients take a look and they see, oh, how many read, how many printed, how many skimmed, you now are armed with the information to be able to explain this data to your client. This is super, super helpful to really understand the level of engagement your content is performing within the industry and your end user. If we have a lot of people that skimmed, maybe it wasn't as impactful as we thought. Let's go back to the drawing board and create some content that may be a little bit more impactful. Lastly, you have your email clients tab. This is fantastic and super important. I think, again, this particular report is underutilized by far, and it's fantastic. So our email client breakdown. How many of you have a creative team or tried to create an email or an email template and Outlook or Gmail, it just is not resonating. It's the rendering is off. It's not very good. And there's 1,000 different things you have to code for, right? To try to get this email to perform. Well, If most of your audience is on Gmail, and let's say only 5% are on Outlook or something like that, think about where your audience is. Those are going to be the platforms that you want to code for. And you know what? If it's not absolutely perfect for Google Android, it's okay. You'll live to see another day. So utilize this to see where your end users are using, what platforms they're using. You also have a breakdown as well of the platform. Again, underutilized reporting here. These are super valuable. So it'll be important for you guys to know where to look to get this information for your clients. So let's talk a little bit about this list reporting, Jen. Where can we find it? So we are now here in our Pardot Reports tab in Pardot Lightning. And as you can see, we have a whole bunch of items on the left-hand side. I'm going to click on Marketing Assets, Emails, and we'll try List Emails to begin. Now, no data because it's a demo org, but you get the point. One of the great things we talked about was this ability to determine what columns we want on our list view. So I've selected a few by the checkbox, but you have the ability to simply go ahead and add and delete particular columns that are important to you. Make sure that you're utilizing these features. Again, it's a very nice quick look inside of Pardot to understand how a group of emails or a particular email has been performing. You also have your filter area. So if you're using an excellent naming convention that's consistent, you will be able to utilize all of these equal to, not equal to, contains, greater than. You can utilize these filters to pick out particular emails that are important to you. So if you have an initiative around product A, you could type in product A and see all of the emails that have product A in the naming convention. This is why it's so important to have these fundamental skills before we jump into all of the things that we want to play with, like engagement history and B2BMA. Templates, a little different. You don't quite have the customization on your email template statistics, so just take note of that. And then lastly, your tests. You have the ability to also look at any test emails in the same fashion with the same filters. All right, let's go on to form and landing page reporting. And I promise we're going to get to the goodies at the end. Again, you've got your resources links. Feel free to utilize them. And again, we are not going to read the whole slide, but we're going to talk a little bit about some of the key points to understand about form and landing page considerations. I think the number one thing that trips up most folks is the understanding of where to look for a report when a form is located on the landing page. So if the form is located on the landing page is the parent inside of Pardot. Always remember that. Landing page is the parent. So if you have a form embedded in a landing page, where are you going to go for that reporting? Your landing page reporting. Now, if you're utilizing a form handler or an iframe form on your website, then you're going to go ahead and use your form reporting to look for your statistics. Couple of key things that I think are really important for you to understand on the consultant cert. What is the difference between a form submission and a conversion? All right. A submission is when a visitor or prospect completes a form and submits it to Pardot. A conversion is a specific type of submission which the anonymous visitor provides an email address and converts into a prospect. So let's take this back one more time. A submission is when you have a known user fill out a form and submit to Pardot. A conversion is when I have an unknown user, I get their email for the very first time. Know the difference between conversion and submission. So just like list emails and templates, form and form handlers and landing pages have a ton of metrics to memorize. You guys are going to have a lot of cards to write out. But I pulled the items that I thought were more important, as well as the items that I think a lot of my clients had a hard time understanding the difference. We just talked about the difference between submissions and conversions. And here are some more metrics that follow that. We have our total submission and submission rate. We have our conversions and our unique submissions. So all of these things are super important. Again, know the difference between submission and conversion. The last little tidbit for that consultant job and consultant cert is know the difference between table metrics and form metrics. Understand what you can do within those tables, those list email tables that we looked at, and what you can actually see in form metrics. It'll be very important to understand those. So let's dive in. Let's take a look. I'm back to my handy dandy Pardot reports page. I'm taking a look at my form statistics. So these particular forms are iframe forms. And so I'm able to look at my views and submissions as well as my error and error rate. I go to my landing pages. And remember, my landing page report is going to include the submissions of any form that is actually related to that. So if I have that form on my landing page, I'm going to go to my landing page statistics to understand all of the submissions and conversions. All right. Now that the review is over, you're like, come on, let's get to the juicy stuff. We're now going to dive into engagement history, and we're going to spend a little more time in demo mode. We're going to talk a little bit more in detail about some of these new features. But again, I cannot stress enough how important it is to have that baseline. Really need to understand that baseline. You're going to start to see how that translates as we move forward. Again, feel free to utilize those resource links as well. Okay, things to know. These are all extremely important things to know for your consultant cert. Just know that you're going to need admin access to enable. All right. Everything in setup is in that admin setup window. So make those discussions, become best friends with that Salesforce admin, do some screen share, buy them some coffee. I mean, everyone loves coffee or pizza or tea or all three, but make sure you have those relationships. It'll be really important to have those relationships with your Salesforce admin or your client's admin to be able to get the access that the client will need to be successful in the tool. We talked about connected campaigns. They are a prerequisite. Your availability, it is actually available in Salesforce Professional, but you need to have API access. It's also available in Enterprise Performance and Unlimited with Pardot Growth Plus Advanced or Premium Edition. Now, there are 4 pieces to engagement history. It is very confusing because everything is called engagement. So let's break those apart so that you understand the 4 pieces of engagement history. I think most of us are familiar with the engagement cards. Again, you saw that on Morgan's presentation, and we see that a lot in most other blogs and things like that. Those are the cards that are giving us those initial metrics. We then have our engagement history dashboard. This can be embedded on our campaign and account objects. We'll take a look at what that looks like in just a second. Something super important to understand and memorize. You will need the Analytics View Only Embedded App Permission Set License in order to see the engagement history dashboard. If I could repeat that 100 times, I would. Take note. You need to have that permission set license to see. Now, your Pardot edition is what's going to determine how many user license that you have. So if you have growth, you get 5 licenses, plus you get 10 licenses, advanced, you get 20. Why am I bringing this up? Because you come across an organization that gets really excited about seeing this dashboard. We want all of our sales team to be able to see this dashboard. We want to understand what accounts are engaging with us. We want everyone to have this information. But you may only have 5 licenses. So you do have the ability to get more licenses through Salesforce. But as a consultant, you need to set those expectations with your client. Clients can become very upset thinking that everyone is going to have access to this dashboard and then finding out they only have 5 licenses. So as a consultant, we become that buffer. We have to let them know today we have 5 licenses. Let's get it up and running to a pilot group. Should you want to extend it to your team, you can enable that conversation with your Salesforce AE, and you can become that middleman to help them be successful. All right, the third piece of engagement history is engagement history reports. Another very unlooked feature. I think a lot of people pass this one up. You have to, again, have that admin access, but there are 5 custom report types that need to be created. And these report types are going to allow you to report on Pardot assets inside of Salesforce. Pardot assets, marketing links, forms, landing pages, list emails, these are now objects inside of Salesforce. So if you do have a Salesforce background, it's the same as any other object. We have custom reports that allow us to pull data from our from our objects, be able to report on those. So we're going to go through that together as well today. And then the last piece of engagement history is the engagement history lightning component. This is located on your lead and contact object. And really, it replaces that ugly visual force page piece that we used to have to put in to show our activities. This is much more robust, and it is actually much more beautiful to look at. And it allows your sales team to be able to very quickly understand the prospect's engagement as well as the marketing efforts for that particular lead or contact. That was a lot to say. So let's get into something a little more fun, like some demo. Let's look under the hood together. All right, this is just a quick little peek of engagement history and what it looks like. And if any of you are still looking at that visual force page that we've embedded in our details, you can see how much better this is. So first, we're going to take a look at engagement history setup. Remember the requirements of the cert. It's going to be important for you to understand the technical setup requirements. Let's look at some technical setup requirements. So as you can see, I am here. I've used my setup window. I'm at my admin quick find box. I'm going to go down to Pardot, which is the third below platform tools. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on engagement history. Now this setup assistant is pretty fantastic. There's a few years ago where this setup assistant didn't exist. And Salesforce is doing a great job at trying to walk us through the different permission sets and things that we need to create. So I highly advise going through each and every one of these. I'm going to give you a couple tips along the way. One of the biggest pieces and one of the things that I see happen a lot with consultants where they run into trouble is they get really excited and they just go ahead and click on the embedded engagement history dashboard. They just go right to 3. I don't want to do any of the other stuff. I want to see the goodies. Okay, we've got to do this stuff first. Order of operations is super important. I'm excited. You're excited. But we want to be successful. So we want to start with the first thing first. And that is we're going to add the engagement history on our campaign records. So again, you'll need to work with an admin, right? We want to make sure that we get all of the features that come with this. We don't want to just enable this and then have it hidden in the background. So we'll need to go to our page layout setups and we'll need to add these engagement history cards. We'll have to add our metrics. And so you can follow each one of these pieces and it's going to go ahead and show you what to do. We won't get into page layout setup today, but there are a lot of resources out there. The only thing that you need to know is where to find engagement history and to follow this setup assistant. The second is creating report types. And I do want to show you something, a really great link that they provide, which isn't going to populate for me right now. Let's try this. Second time a charm. There we go. All right, utilize this link. We're going to take a look at these report types in a second, but I feel like it's best practice. Label your reports exactly what the document states. Utilize your description and add that description. Remember, you might not be in this org forever. It's always important to add those descriptions to these custom report types. It will take you through creating each one of these, and anyone can do this. We're going to take a look at it, but always copy paste, utilize good naming convention. Don't try to rename this yourself. It's going to be confusing for others. So definitely utilize the resources given to you. And once all that's done, then you can click the toggle. Everyone loves to click the toggle. So then you can click that toggle. Make sure that you wait 24 hours, right? We want to make sure that all the data becomes available. Don't get too excited, click it and go check and then be like, it's not working. Give it its time, do things in order of operations, and you'll be just fine. So let's talk a little bit about those report types. So here again in the setup menu, I've went ahead and typed in my quick find box and my report types. And I've also created these here for you. Notice my labels are exactly what the doc recommended. I have a description. It's very easy now for any end user to come in here and understand what this report is and what it does. We'll pop in and take a look at just one of these report types. There's a couple things I want to point out. The one thing is I like to store these in a report type category campaigns. Now, if you're not familiar with Salesforce, you're like, what in the world does that mean? So when you create a report in Salesforce and you have to select an object to see what reports are available for that object, I like to house these on the campaign object because they are the relationship of the campaign to the asset to the campaign member. So that's where I like to store them. The next little gotcha is the deployment status. So many people have created report types and they go to create a report and they can't find the report. Where in the world is it? It's probably because when you created it, you did not select deployed for your deployment status. All right, you can see here, my object relationship is that I have a campaign and I'm relating it to my landing pages. I know this is a little bit more advanced, a little more admin, but it's really important that you understand how this works so that you can explain it to your client. When we take a look at our layouts, we're going to see our fields are separated by our parent campaign, our campaign, and our landing page. This makes it easier when creating the report to understand which fields to pull over into our columns or use as filters. Let's look at what this looks like. What should this campaign object look like when everything is enabled? So here we're taking a look at a campaign record. I love this layout. We all have our preferences. I make most of my clients use this layout because I love it so much. But yours may be different. The only thing that I can stress here is that your layouts between lead, contact, account, campaign, opportunity have the same look and feel. Things like we have related lists on the right. We're utilizing tabs. So you want to make that consistent so that the user in the system feels very comfortable. All right, engagement cards. You guys have seen these before. Nothing new here. It's giving you all the statistics. If this was a parent campaign, I could click my toggle, include my child campaigns, and everything would roll up. Remember when we talked about connected campaigns and that structure, those buckets? Pretend this campaign was our virtual events for 2020. And underneath that, we had a child campaign for each virtual event that we did. I could go to the parent, click this include child campaign tab, and everything would roll up. And in a quick instant, I would be able to tell my client, here's how this performed. Here's how all of the assets we used performed. Here's how many people engaged. These are the type of things you need to understand as a consultant. Where are you going to go to look at overall engagement within a hierarchy? Probably your engagement cards utilizing your child campaigns toggle. We'll pop down here. I love to add the related list quick links. It allows us to have really quick drop downs of all the different assets that are within one campaign. Now, if you're not familiar, this is a little bit of a shift. We don't create a campaign for every tactical thing we do, not for every email. Your campaign is your container. It's your initiative. I'm putting on a webinar next Tuesday. I'm going to send out 2 pre-emails, 2 post emails. I'm going to have a landing page, a form, obviously the event itself, and a couple custom redirects to be able to utilize that on social media, as well as share the watch on demand recording. All of those pieces can fall into one campaign. They're part of one initiative. And this related list quickly allows us to see the different assets that we used and their performance. Now, the last piece is down here. We're going to take a look. Here's that engagement history dashboard. Now, it's a dev org. I don't have data. I am so sad, but you get the drift. This is allowing you here to be able to see your most engaged accounts. So a little bit of ABM flair here. You have the ability here to see trends over time. So you're going to see the activity. And then down here is actually going to be your list of campaign members, both leads and contacts. When this has data, you will have activity type like clicked or viewed that you'll be able to do some segmenting on, and you can select those items. Your asset types are going to say things like marketing link, marketing form, list email. So if you just want to see how your emails performed, you can do that. You also have your activity date, and that allows you to be able to select many dates when it is in full use. So that engagement history dashboard is located here on the campaign object. It's also located on the account object, and we'll take a look at that at the end when we do some demo and QA time. Now, this is just a little extra just because I'm here. I'm going to tell you anyway. I like to create a build tab for my clients. This houses all of their assets, as well as their campaign member statuses and their snippets. As we continue to build and utilize assets within the Salesforce platform, and one day have the ability to be able to clone and copy these campaigns, we want to be able to have one workspace for all of our assets. This is super organized. The marketer knows where to go. We have our related lists for anyone else that's taking a look and our details, but it gives everyone a place to go that's consistent. All right, now let's take a look at the fourth piece. Remember, engagement history, 4 components. The fourth one is the engagement history. Now, I don't know if any one of you have been picking this up, but I have an affection for the Avengers, so you will see a lot of their characters in my dev org. Engagement history is right over here. How beautiful is this for your sales folks to take a look at? Not only are we seeing things like landing page views, form successes, or even web page visits, but we have our opportunity one here. So note that this piece can be put on your lead and contact records. It's going to be pulling all that Pardot data, and it gives you a one-stop shop. All right, that was engagement history. Now we're going to move on to B2B marketing analytics. I feel like we need a drum roll for this one. We again have a full resource link for you to take advantage of on your study time. Here is the availability. I threw this on a slide for you. There is a lot to go through. I am not going to go through each piece of this, but know where it's available. Also, know the difference between B2B Marketing Analytics and B2B Marketing Analytics Plus. They're actually 2 different apps. So while all of these things live within the Analytics Studio, know that the B2B Marketing Analytics is simply an app. It is an app that comes with your out-of-the-box dashboards and a data set from Pardot. B2B Marketing Analytics Plus is a different app that has different dashboards and features that come with it. So do a little digging and understand the difference. All right, one of these things to know slides again, where I talk forever, but these are all very important things to know on your consultant cert. Hey, B2B Marketing Analytics lives in the Analytics Studio. Don't be confused by that. Some folks feel like it's a standalone. We see a lot of people calling this Pardot Analytics reporting, which makes a lot of clients and a lot of folks think that this is something separate, but it really is just an app inside your Analytics Studio. Again, you're going to need that admin access to enable. So who's going to be your new best friend? That's Salesforce admin. Connected campaigns are a prerequisite. So is campaign influence 2.0, not just 1.0. So these are the reasons why we went through that at the beginning of our presentation. If you do not have campaign influence 2.0 enabled, you will not see your multi-touch attribution dashboard. And that is obviously one of the key benefits of utilizing B2B marketing analytics. Contact roles, contact roles, contact roles are a prerequisite for any attribution. If you are not using them, you're not going to see attribution. The availability, pop up to that next slide. You can see the availability there. Things to know about the consultant cert. What do you need to be able to enable this? You will need your CRM user, Sales Cloud user, or Service Cloud user permission set to set this up, in addition to that admin access. You're also going to need managed template permissions. There is a manual template update. He usually rolls out quarterly, every 3 months, but B2B marketing analytics template updates do roll out. They're not always announced. So you'll need to check that app frequently and you'll need to update that app. We're not going to get into the logistics of that today, but it is really important to have those permissions set so that you're able to do that. Another very important piece to understand about your consultant cert is what's included in B2BMA. Well, we've got 5 out-of-the-box dashboards that are standard. You're going to have your engagement dashboard. That is specifically asset related. How are all of my assets performing? We're going to take a look at each one of these dashboards, but remember, it is your job as a consultant to be able to understand which one of these dashboards to use in a given scenario. Our next is our marketing manager, and that's going to talk to us a little bit about our top performing assets. What's my top performing form? What's my top performing campaign? We have our pipeline, multi-touch attribution, and account-based marketing. Last but not least, remember these dashboards use set data sets. Another very confusing point. They are not and they cannot be altered to support your org's business processes. So remember when we learned about MQL and SQL way in the beginning of the presentation? These dashboards are built off of Salesforce and Pardot's definition of what an MQL and an SQL is, not your org. It's not going to know that you have a particular set of criteria before someone moves to the next stage. So if you want a dashboard to represent your pipeline funnel and it's custom, you'll need to take those data sets, combine them with a new data set that you build and create a new dashboard. Now, we're not going to get into that today, and that's not on the consultant exam of how to create dashboards. But it's very important for you to know that as a consultant, because a lot of people come into this thinking that these dashboards are going to represent the custom business process that you've built inside of Salesforce. All right, let's get into the fun of it. I think I've said that 1,000 times, but it really is something that you need to bring home. You really need to absorb is that it is your job to understand these dashboards, these definitions, these metrics. As a consultant, you're the one your client is going to go to. And so you need to do your homework. So let's talk a little bit about the setup of B2B marketing analytics, some of those things that you might need to know on your cert. So again, you can find all of this in the same place. We have use our cog for our setup menu. We're going to pop down to Pardot, look at B2B marketing analytics, and we have 2 different places that we want to visit. The very first is getting started. Now, again, we're not going to start with 3, and we're not going to start with our optional features first. We're going to start with number 1. And what they're going to do is they're going to walk you through granting permissions to your connector integration user and assign your user permissions. That's the very first thing that you're going to walk through and do. There are definitely some anomalies around V1 connector If someone's using a Salesforce license to be a connector or the V2 connector, they're not on the test, but something as a consultant you should probably look into. After you've managed those assignments, you've assigned those users, now we're going to go ahead and enable your Einstein analytics. At this point, you'll simply click on the wizard and the wizard will walk you through the enablement process. Once that's complete, you're going to have to create a B2B marketing analytics app in Analytics Studio. As you can see, you have the ability to click right into Analytics Studio. So those permission sets we talked about are super important. You need the ability to be able to access these items. Now, if you get stuck and you need some more help, they've given you the implementation guide right here. So for the cert, it's important to know where to find these items and understand all of the items within your setup assistant. Let's take a look at optional features. This is all sorts of fun. So after you've got things up and running, you can do some additional pieces. One of that is enabling your prospect and activity data set. So once we've done our engagement history, which we've already done, I recommend you always do your engagement history first, then do your B2BMA. Remember order of operations, connected campaigns, Pardot Lightning, campaign influence, engagement history, then B2BMA. You can add your data sets, you can add the data set to apps, and then it starts to take you through setting up and making sure that you have the right features to have the visibility of your dashboards. So again, some things that you need to do for setup, it's going to walk you right through. Take your time to go through each step. Now, if you do not have Pardot Einstein, you may not see the Einstein behavior scoring dashboard. It depends. But whatever that you do see, you need to take the time and go through things one by one. So if you are a marketer or a consultant and you want to go through this with your admin, set up a 2-hour call, go through it together so that at least you can speak to it to your client. Let's take a look and see what these things look like, hey? Enough talk. All right, so we are inside our analytics studio and we're going to take a look at our dashboards. So let's walk through the engagement dashboard. Our engagement dashboard is just that. It's all of our assets, our list emails, templates, forms, landing pages. Remember that connected campaign hierarchy we talked about? So if I go ahead and select a parent campaign, and my taxonomy is good and my naming convention is good, I can then see all of the assets that I utilized within that hierarchy and all the child campaigns, and I can take a look here. So if I had webinars, I could click my webinar parent, look at all of the list emails, the forms, landing pages I utilized, the tactics I used. And if I used tags, I could then also maybe say, I only want to see webinars regarding education. So that's how all of this works together. That is why it's important to start at the foundation and work your way up. If everything was a one-to-one campaign, this is all you would get for a dashboard, which it looks pretty and it's great. But I think most of us want a little bit more segmentation. We want a little more purpose. Let's now move to our marketing manager. Marketing manager is going to give us some of those quick metrics. What are my pipeline deals? Now, remember, if you're not using contact roles and you don't have campaign influence enabled, you're not going to have anything in these pipeline deals, right? Because we have no relationship to the opportunity. We also wouldn't have any revenue by campaign. So those key things need to happen before these out of the box dashboards will work. We're then going to see our top forms, our list engagement, our landing page completion. This is a really fun dashboard. This shows us what we're doing really, really well and gives us a gut check. So in a scenario, which what the consultant cert will ask for, if you have questions like, I want to understand what our top performing form was in Q1, or can you give me a snapshot of our pipeline, or what campaign has more revenue, this is going to be a really good place for you to go to answer that question. Multi-touch attribution. So campaign influence does what? It enables first touch, last touch, even touch distribution. Here is the ability to toggle. Now, if you had not enabled that, one, this dashboard would be a fail. It wouldn't load for you. And two, you wouldn't have the ability to go ahead and sort by your different models. So know that that needs to be enabled. Here's that campaign hierarchy coming back again. I can look at one campaign or I can look at a parent campaign and understand my attribution for that initiative, right? How did my webinars perform? How did my webinars perform in a particular time frame? We have particular accounts as well, opportunities, and particular contacts. So a lot of different ways that you can look at data here. Understand what all of these things do and when you would use this dashboard versus another. Lastly, we're going to take a look at pipeline. This is fun. This again is completely enabled on those campaign influence and contact role adoption. So we're looking at pipeline, how many opportunities are in a pipeline, what are source campaigns by company, our lead sources. Now, this is only going to be as good as your data. So if you're not consistently using lead source, if you're not consistently putting in your information, it might not be as powerful as you think. And these MQLs, SQLs, they are the definitions of Salesforce's MQL, SQL, not your company. So if you ever wanted to make these edits, you would have to use this data set and create a new dashboard. Very important to remember. Did we forget anybody? We're going to get to that Einstein one. Count-based marketing. Count-based marketing, fantastic. It's going to be showing you your top accounts, the engagement scores, stage values of how many's closed and open, the account names, as well as the opportunity. This is an excellent quick gut check to understand which accounts are engaging with you the most. But of course, it's still not going to take on any custom values you might have for top accounts, like a checkbox or a dropdown that says, mid-market, enterprise, SMB. Those things are custom to your Salesforce. They're not going to be pulled over into these out-of-the-box dashboards. You can create new dashboards, but just know that. It's really important to understand that. Okay. Let's dive into a little bit of Pardot Einstein, and then we're going to open it up for some Q&A. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. So again, here's your resource for Pardot Einstein. Things to know. All right. You need admin access to enable prerequisites, connected campaigns, Pardot Lightning, campaign influence. Seeing a pattern here? It's available in Pardot Advanced Edition with Salesforce Enterprise, Performance, or Unlimited. Again, you're going to need that CRM user, Sales Cloud user, or Service Cloud user permission set to view on Salesforce Lightning pages. Now, Pardot Einstein is made up of 4 pieces and it's growing. There's all sorts of new innovations coming our way. It's important to understand what these 4 pieces are for your cert and what they mean. The first is Einstein behavioral scoring. All right. In order to use that behavioral scoring, you need access to B2B marketing analytics. That's going to be very important to know for your cert. Something else from a consultant standpoint, what you want to tell your clients is that we recommend 6 months of prospect engagement data and 20 prospects linked to opportunities. How is a prospect linked to an opportunity? Through the contact role. So if you have a brand new org and your client is like, I want Pardot Einstein today, well, we can enable it, but it might be 6 months before you're starting to actually get some actionable data from it because of the way that it works. It's an algorithm. It's going to see how things are being converted, when opportunities are won, when people are engaging. It's going to take time to gather data. Allow it to take that time and set that expectation for your client. That is our job as consultants. We are the buffer. We are the ones that set those expectations. Now, really important to understand the difference between behavioral scoring and lead scoring. Behavioral scoring will use your prospect's engagement pattern data to improve the model over time. Einstein lead scoring is going to analyze your past leads, including any custom fields that you have on the lead object, to determine which current leads have the most in common with leads that have previously been converted. Hold on a second. Say that again. All right. Einstein lead scoring basically is going to take a look at your leads, the fields, and their past performance. So if a lead is this and the industry is that, and the geography is this, and custom product value is this, and they've been a part of conversions into contacts and opportunities, they've been engaging, it's going to take that data and then it's going to be able to kind of tell you and predict which leads could be similar. Behavioral scoring is going to look at the engagement of the lead or contact. So it's important to know the difference. I didn't articulate it very well today, but I do have some resources for you. The next two pieces of Pardot Einstein is going to be your Einstein campaign insights and your Einstein attribution. Again, important to know the 4 different pieces of Pardot Einstein. Oh, sure. Let's try this. There we go. Okay. So let's take a look under the hood. I'm going to do a quick time check. I know we're at an hour, so I'll push through this, but then we will be complete and ready for some QA. Let's talk a little bit about the Pardot Einstein setup. Again, you're going to go into the same place. You're going to go to your setup menu and your quick find box, and you're going to come down here into Einstein and Einstein Pardot. Here you're going to find Einstein attribution. You're going to see your assistants, your setup assistant. All of this is the same type of process. Again, do not go out of order and always go in order of operations. You have your Einstein behavioral scoring. It's going to take you through your lead list views, your pages, making sure that you're adding these features to your lead and contact pages and your campaign object is so important. Don't enable a feature and then not allow anyone to see it. Your campaign insights, again, directing you to those lightning record homepages to add that feature, and your lead scoring. All right, let's take a look at what this looks like. We'll take a look at our lead scoring and behavioral scoring. So I have a dev org. We're probably not going to see too much information here, but this Einstein scoring feature is going to allow you to see both the behavioral score and the lead score. So when you're in the Lightning page layout setup, you're just going to want to make sure that you select both. I'll show you. It looks similar to this. You're going to have a behavioral score, and then the next tile, you'll have your lead score. So again, that behavior score is going to talk about the engagement, right? The email open, the email tracker, custom URL. Lead score, status is qualified. It's those field data. The company is data tech. The title is VP. So know the difference between the two. Now, the last piece we're going to take a look at before we get to Q&A is our behavioral scoring dashboard in B2B MA. No data because it's a demo org, but this is something that can be enabled, and you'll start to look things like influence by activity, asset, connected prospects. This dashboard is going to be out of the box for you once that's enabled. So the important things to understand for the CERT: what are the differences between behavioral and lead scoring? What are the 4 pieces of Pardot Einstein? And what is the Pardot Einstein dashboard in B2B MA? Now, I'm not sure how much time you guys want to take for Q&A. I went a little long, but it is our demo and QA time. So I'd love to open it up to Isha. If you want to share some questions from the group, I would love to answer some.
Sure, Jen. Amazing presentation and so much insights about the reporting and the campaigning stuff there. I think it couldn't be more amazing about the report metrics in Pardot Consultant Bootcamp section. So I have few questions for you. uh, which are one of them is, do we need a certain level of Pardot to see the skimmed versus glanced rates? I can only see open and CTR.
You should be able to have that report is available in GA. So it may just be that you're looking in a different area. There's two things that can happen. So make sure you go to the actual email and then look at view report. If you're still not seeing that, you may have a custom role that is limiting some of your access inside of Pardot. But that email report is specific to Pardot and is available in GA.
Great. I think that was the answer he was looking for. Next, we have, is the forward report metric under the interaction tab, is that a standard or via the add this connector? And then for the email clients tab, is that available for all Pardot editions?
Yeah, so we keep going back to that. Maybe we should revisit that. I think that might be a good idea. Let's pop into that really quick. I'm just going to put you guys over here. And let's look at an email. We're going to go to our Pardot report tab. And let's take a look one more time together. So I'm now going to take a look at my marketing assets. I'm going to look at a list email. Now this looks a little different in pi.pardot.com, but the items are still the same. So let's just do this. Let's go to here, and I'm just trying to find an email. Give me just a second. Sure. Gotta love the dev org. All right, hold on just a sec. There we go. Let's do emails. It's not gonna happen here. Let me find my Pardot email tab. Still not gonna let me. Is it sent maybe? There we go. Okay. So we've clicked on our email. So whether you're in pi.pardot.com or you're in Pardot Lightning, you click on the actual email. We're not in the campaign. We're not in the report section. We're on the email. And then up above here, you should have the view report. If you don't see this button, it means that you probably have a custom profile and someone needs to give you that access. So you need to have your admin access inside of Pardot as well. So now I'm going to click report. And then here is your email clients interaction click-through rate. So this is specific to the email. So if you're looking for it in reports, you won't find it. You'll need to go into the actual email itself. Hopefully that helps.
Even I think, definitely. Next, we have, is the engagement history available for the Legacy Ultimate Edition?
You will need to ask your Salesforce AE. There have been some SKU issues in the past. So the best way to answer that question is to go to the setup menu inside of your Salesforce org, pop over here to Pardot and click this expandable piece. If you don't see engagement history there, it means it hasn't been enabled. So depending on the time that you got Ultimate and depending on the SKU that you have, you may or may not have that feature. Obviously, you need to make sure that Connected Campaigns is enabled first. And you need to be on Pardot Lightning. It's not available anywhere else. And then you'll need to check here. So it definitely is a one-to-one type of situation. So this is the way that you'll find out if it's available in your org.
Great. I think, Jen, it helps. But still, if you have any more questions, please feel free to pop them in the Pardot Consultant Bootcamp Slack channel. Uh, One or two more questions we'll take up. One of them is like, how is this different from Salesforce Engage? Even in SF Engage, you can provide a component for the sales team to view all the engagements of a prospect or contact. Jennifer, do you want to throw any thoughts over that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's an excellent question. So the things that we talked today are very specific to the marketing efforts. your web efforts, and any former landing page efforts. And so we want to add those to the lead and contact page. Engage is built for salespeople. It's for sales to utilize templates that the marketing team has made and have their own set of campaigns, have their own set of sales cadences or emails, and then report on their specific activity. So Salesforce Engage is like just a little extra sprinkle on top of that cake. It allows the salespeople to deep dive into what they're doing versus what marketing team and the prospect is engaging in overall. So if you have both, you've got the best of both worlds. You get to see what sales is doing, marketing's doing, how they're engaging. It's all on your lead and contact record. It's pretty fantastic.
Great. I think again it helps much. So the last but not the least question for the day we'll take up as, can you customize the engagement dashboard on the campaign record? Is it possible? It's Einstein
No. Oh,
and
sorry. Go ahead. No, and everyone wants to. So absolutely, the engagement dashboard on the campaign and object, campaign and account object are not customizable. They have a particular data set that has been created and they feed just what they feed. Now, what I have done, if you're a little bit more advanced, is I've taken that data set and I've created a different dashboard in Einstein Analytics. Of course, you need Einstein Analytics Plus license to be able to manipulate data and pull in different objects. So I've been able to create an object data set of, let's say, the campaign object or the campaign member object, because I have custom fields on my campaign that I want to include, or I have custom fields on my accounts and contacts. So you build those pieces first, and then you can create a dashboard, and then you can decide to embed that dashboard on your homepage. Anything from EA can be embedded, or you can simply create a dashboard in BDBMA that you could reference. So just know that you have the ability, once you've taken that most advanced, but you do not have the ability to edit that within the campaign or account objects.
Cool. I think with that, we have covered up, you know, good couple of questions. But yes, that's not the end. Again, first of all, and not at the end, yeah, again, I would say thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. Thank you so much, Jennifer. It was amazing having you here. And I'm sure our trailblazers enjoyed a lot in this session.